Hi, let's talk about witch books. Hi, I'm Colleen Delaney. If you're new here, I talk about books and writing, and today we're going to talk about probably my favorite subgenre of all time, which is witchy books. In 2024, I'll be able to recommend my own book about witches, which is coming out, called The Hedge Witch. But until then, I thought I'd give you some of my favorite witch books to read, especially in autumn. Also, if you stick around until the end, I'm going to talk about a few of my favorite tarot and oracle card decks, if you're interested. I broke these down into kind of weird subsections. So we're going to start with mythology witches. And the first one being Circe by Madeline Miller. Circe is basically the first witch in Greek mythology. So if you love witches and you love potions and you love spells, definitely give Circe a try. She's best known for being the witch that turns Odysseus's men into pigs in the Odyssey. And this is the story of how she finds her magic and what her life ends up being. This book is unbelievably beautiful, and I really recommend it to pretty much everyone I've ever met. Next is The Witch's Heart by Genevieve Gorniak, I think is how you say her last name. Here's the cover. I had an ARC for it before it came out, so I do not own a physical copy. And this is the story of Angerboda, who is a witch who is married to Loki in Norse mythology. Again, much like Circe, we get the view of her life from the beginning through thousands of years. There's lots of fun cutting out hearts and such in here, which I really enjoyed. And if you like Circe and you like sort of like the ancient witchcraft, I would really recommend this book as well. Next, this book could kind of fit in this section and kind of the next one, and that's Brida by Paulo Coelho, I think is how you say his last name. He is the author that wrote The Alchemist. This book is fantastic. I don't currently have it because I lent it to one of my friends and then she moved across the country. But this is a wonderful, wonderful modern witch story, but with some glimpses into the past. So if you like stuff with past lives, definitely check out Brida. I literally read this book from cover to cover. I was delayed in an airport, bought it for fun, and just inhaled the entire thing. It is a great read, especially if you like the idea of past lives and remembering them. My next subsection I'm calling book club witches, because these are books that I feel like would lend themselves well to discussion among book club goers. And the first is The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. Now, while this one doesn't have like really a traditional witch in it, one of the main characters is an apothecary who deals out poisons for women to kill their husbands or men who have wronged them with, which is very much witch energy. So I really enjoyed it. There's also, I would say this is almost like magical realism instead of like historical fantasy. So I think that there's some fun magic stuff. There's some fun weird stuff that happens. And also if you like reading about mixing potions, definitely check this one out. Next, no list about witches is complete without practical magic at all. So I don't own any of those books by Alice Hoffman. I got them all from the library. I got ARCs from some of them. But the series is Practical Magic, The Rules of Magic, Magic Lessons. There's another one I'm missing, but I'll put all the covers here. These follow the Owens sisters / family through hundreds of years, starting with Maria Owens, who I believe is in the 1700s, going to present day. Beyond practical magic, I really recommend everyone read The Blackbird House by Alice Hoffman, which is a historical magical realism as well about a piece of property in New England. And you follow this piece of property over like 200 years. And some of the people that live there are very witchy. And it has a very magical feel to it. It's also really short. I read it in one day. It's a fun read. Also, what a witchy cover. I love those red shoes, which are a big part of the story. My last book club witchy book is Garden Spells by Sarah Addison Allen, which I haven't read this in a very long time. But when I did read it, it gave me all the practical magic vibes. So it's about a pair of sisters. They're back in town. They have weird gifts. Like one can give anyone a haircut that makes them feel like super good about themselves. And the other can like bake emotions into food. It definitely has like the light witchy feel rather than like hit you over the head with witchy feel. But if you really like the magical realism vibes in practical magic, definitely pick up this one. I just got her new book, Other Birds, which I bought as soon as I saw that it was by her, but I don't think this one has witches in it. I think it just has magical realism. But if it does have witches, I'll let you know in my September wrap up. Next, let's talk about witchy romance, which is my favorite witchy subgenre. And this is my favorite series, the Stay a Spell series. But this is the story of the Savoy sisters who live in New Orleans and how they find their soulmates. And they are witches, and they end up being with vampires and werewolves and grims. And oh my, is this series phenomenal. So the first one is Wolf Gone Wild. And this one we have Mateo, who is a werewolf who can't turn. And he meets Evie, who is a curse breaker. And they fall in love. And it is wonderful and so hot. This one also takes place in fall. So if you want like fall vibes, this one has fall vibes. Next, we've got Don't Hex and Drive, which is Isadora. And she's kind of like a sunshiny witch and is like really into like animals and stuff like that. And she meets Devraj, who is a vampire. And they have the best meet cute I've ever read because he hits her with his car. And since she's magical, she can heal okay. But that was hilarious meet cute. Next, we've got Violet and Nico in Witches Get Stitches. And Violet is a tattoo artist, and she has come up with a way to kind of like tattoo spells. I think this one is my favorite because I really like Nico and Violet. I think they're a phenomenal couple. So I'm not sure. I'm going to reread them all once they're all out, and then I'll let you know for sure if this one was my favorite. Next is Always Practice Safe Hex, and this is Livy's story with Gareth. Gareth is a Grimm. This is a workplace romance, enemies to lovers, which are two of my least favorite tropes, but in this it worked so well. Livy was like my least favorite going into it. I loved this book. You definitely lean into like the dark side of the Grimm in this, which was very fun. And then lastly, there's Walking in a Witchy Wonderland, which is a holiday collection, which I will reread in this December because I enjoyed it so much last December. The next book is called Rusting Witch Face, and it's coming out, I think, on Halloween. But sadly, because I always get the hard copies of these, I can't pre-order it because these are indie published, not like a big publisher. So I just kind of watch Amazon constantly to see when I can actually order it because I can't wait. And there's going to be one more book that I think is coming out in the spring. I'm not 100% sure when it's coming out. But I cannot wait to read the last two and then reread the entire series, probably more than once. That's how much I love it. Moving on. Next, I've got The Ex-Hex by Erin Sterling. And this is kind of like witchy romance, but like small town vibes and like not super sexy, more like pulled back a little bit. I recommend this to anyone who normally reads fantasy but wants to try romance because it's definitely like heavy on the fantasy plot. The romance is still there. It's a real romance novel, but it definitely has like heavy plot in terms of like the town is in trouble because the magic's messed up, and then the romance is there too. Very fun. Next, I have Touch the Sky by Carrie Cole, which is the second book in a series, and I've been waiting for the third book forever, and I don't know what's going on. I kind of want to email Carrie Cole, even though I don't know her, and be like, when am I getting that third book? Because I really loved the first two. But the first one doesn't have any witches in it. It's just about werewolf shifters, like wolf shifters. The second book, one of the heroine is both a wolf shifter and a witch. To give you a little bit of heads up, there are some like really heavy things that are dealt with in this series. There's like off-page sexual assault, not of a main character, but pretty gruesome, like close family member of hers. And there is like a lot of murder and stuff like that off page. So it's definitely like a darker paranormal fantasy. But Vaughn, who's the hero in this, who is a wolf shifter and an eagle shifter, is one of my favorite paranormal heroes of all time. He's fantastic. I've read this book twice. I loved it. I really hope the third book comes out and that it's not indefinitely shelved because I really want to read it. Lastly, in the romance section, if you want to read like a magical, historical, witchy book, I recommend the Highland Magic series by Kerrigan Byrne, particularly Highland Witch. But that entire series has a lot of magic woven through it. It's 9-book series of novellas. There's a lot of like berserkers and druids and like old school witches, and like the witches from Macbeth are the villains at the end. And so it definitely has a like witchy feel. It definitely has like a real autumn feel, even though it's taking place like a long time ago. I don't remember exactly when, but a long time ago. Now to change completely away from romance, here are some middle grade books I really like about witches. So I have to start off with Wise Child by Monica Furlong, which I don't own. I did for a very long time. Mainly because this is the book that I read that I was like, oh my gosh, this is my wheelhouse. This is what I want to read. And I actually read it for school as like a class in my 7th grade Catholic school classroom, which is crazy. Shout out to Mrs. Conlon. You're not watching this, but if you are, look at me now. This is a story of like a medieval witch named Juniper and her charge, who she calls Wise Child. And it's fantastic. And it's got like some really, really cool, like there's like different kinds of witchery in books, obviously. You get like the Wicca witch books, and then you get like the medieval witch books. This is medieval. This is like cover yourself in like a thick waxy potion and then hallucinate that you're flying. That's what this book is. And it's wonderful. It's part of a series. So there's a book called Juniper, which is about her teacher's childhood. And then there's a book called Coleman, which is, I can't remember that one as well because I didn't like that one as much, but they're a great series. They're like so 90s, like so early 90s. And as someone who grew up in the 90s, if you like 90s vibes, definitely read this. Next, I have The Wild Seed Witch by Marty Dumas, which I got an arc of that last year. This is a book about a magical school in New Orleans. And, sorry, my kids are being so loud. And it definitely has like light academia vibes, because like the witch stuff that these girls do is like every time they use magic, like flowers appear everywhere. So it's very like beautiful and not very scary. So if you have a kid or you want to read something that doesn't really have any like peril in it, I recommend this one a lot. It also has a lot of like dealing with family issues, which I know a lot of kids / people want to read books like that. And my last book recommendation I just read with my 9-year-old, and it's Garlic and the Vampire by Brie Paulson. Now, the witch is a minor character, but this book was so fun, and it's so fall, and it's about a witch who has turned a bunch of vegetables basically into like sentient creatures to help her run her garden. And then a vampire moves in, and Garlic is the main character who has to go like face the vampire because garlic is garlic. But it's very, very fun. The pictures are beautiful. I really enjoyed it a lot. My 9-year-old loved it. He was literally like laughing out loud. So if you have a kid or you just want something cozy, there's a sequel called Garlic and the Witch, which just came out, I think, this past week, which we will definitely buy and read, but probably not until October because we're currently reading Spiderwick. So those are all my witchy book recommendations. If you want to stick around, I'll do some card recommendations now. I'm going to start by saying that I'm by no means like a tarot or oracle card expert. My favorite people out in the media world is the Wildly Tarot podcast with Holly and Esther, because I think they're very knowledgeable and they have a lot of great reviews and they have great Instagrams and all that. I'll link their podcast in the description for you. So this is more just like a person who enjoys tarot, telling you about the tarot decks I like. And we're going to start with the RWS tarot deck, which is the one you basically think of when you think of tarot cards. And I've been into tarot cards since I saw Now and Then. And if you are my age, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Janine Garofalo playing the tarot card reader. I saw that. I was like, that's what I want to be when I grow up. Not particularly a waitress, but I wanted to be a woman who had tarot card readings in her front room in Indiana, I guess. But this is like the old school one. If you want to get like a really traditional looking deck, you get all the old school pictures. It's cool, you know? This is the box it comes in. My box is totally falling apart. I need to get like a nice case for it. But if you're looking, that's what the box looks like. All right. My next favorite tarot deck is a deck I bought myself for my birthday this year. And I'll show you the box first. It's the Druid Craft Tarot deck. And this one is just like real earth sign energy, which is, I heard on I think it was Holly's Instagram from Wildly Tarot. She said something about, she's a Taurus and I'm a Taurus, about this having such great energy, like earth sign Taurus energy, which is the main reason I bought it. And I heartily agree. The pictures are very like Celtic-ish looking, if that's like a vibe you're into. Everything's really green. I'd say I love this deck for like spring and summer and probably fall as well. I have a different deck I use in the winter, which I'll show you. But I really love this. Also, one of the things I love is that this deck uses princess and prince instead of page and knight, which I really like. But I like even more is that the princesses all remind me, each of them reminds me of one of my daughters. So there's the Princess of Wands, and that reminds me of one of my daughters. And they all do. I'm not going to go through the whole deck looking for the other ones. But just great vibes for this deck, especially if you like that Earth sign energy. I like this card a lot too, the Queen of Swords. She looks awesome. So if you're an Earth sign energy type of person, check out the Druidcraft Tarot deck. You'll like it. And then the last straightforward tarot deck that I love is the Wild Unknown, which I had to show you this whole box, but like opening this is like such a journey. So you do that. Then you do this. Then you do this. Then you do this. I don't have a good setup to like show you this from above. And then you finally have your deck and you open it. This is a great deck if you don't really like people in your decks because there are no people. It's pretty monochromatic on some pages or some cards, and then others have a lot of color. It's mostly just animals and objects. So if you don't want, people, it's a great one. I definitely would say that this is like my winter deck because it's kind of stark. It has some weird animal things. So if you don't want to open up a deck and see like a cow with 10 swords sticking out of it, this isn't the deck for you. But I like it. Also, it has this great smell because it still smells like ink, even though I've had this for like almost a year. It still has this like really great ink smell, which is awesome. Oh, I'll show you a couple of my favorite cards because I did pull some out. So the Daughter of Pentacles is one of my faves. Justice. I really like that one. And got to do the Moon. In closing about the Wild Unknown, I would say this isn't really like a beginner tarot because the images are definitely like not something you can sort of like just guess what they mean. You do have to really use your book if you're not familiar with the cards. That being said, if you are a super beginner and you don't know what the cards mean anyways, you're probably going to use the book no matter what. So if you like the colors, get it. Now let's move on to my two favorite oracle decks. The first one is Moonology, and I love this one mainly because I think this deck is like very kind. So if you're having a rough day, I think Moonology is a good one to look at. It also has my most favorite like card feel of any cards. It's really easy to shuffle. The cards aren't super tiny. The pictures are very beautiful, calming, very nighttime energy. If you want something that's just going to tell you, like this one says, right on the card, the end of a tough cycle approaches. So it's really straightforward. Have faith in your dreams. Very nice, very relaxing. This is probably my kid's favorite one to pick a card out of. And then lastly, I really like the Pure Magic Oracle, which isn't really like a straightforward oracle deck like Moonology is, or like some of the other ones you might have seen, like fairy cards, or, I have a bunch of other ones upstairs that I just don't utilize as much. But this is kind of a small deck, which is really nice. I'm not sure why I'm shuffling. I just opened it and my body was like, shuffle these cards. But the cards are divided into different elements. So I think that's air. That's an air card. And then we have a fire card, an earth card, and a water card. And these are really pretty and they just tell you little things on them. So let's pick a random one. So I got Hecate's Path, and it says, cycle of life, night magic, crossroads, letting go. So whatever you might be needing help with, let it go. As I said before, I'm not super knowledgeable about the cards, but they're just something fun I like to do. I hope you found some great books in this video and maybe a fun deck of cards that you're going to have a blast with this witchy season. As always, I hope you were in the middle of a good book, about to start reading a good book, or about to start reading a great book. See you soon.